After wading through his old memories, there stood the figure of a lone girl. This is a story of his first love when he was in kindergarten. The story begins on a rainy night when Akira Akamori, while walking home, unexpectedly encounters Saoto under the rain. Her face looks very sad and out of sorts, which confuses him a little. Saoto Aoi is a well-known girl at school because she rarely attends, and there are very bad rumors circulating about her due to her bright blonde hair. In short, she's seen as an unapproachable girl. Akamori considers ignoring her, but seeing her expression, he can't just walk away. He runs towards Saoto and covers her with his umbrella. Saoto immediately recognizes him and asks what he is doing there, and he answers that he's not really doing anything. He tells her that if she stays out in the rain, she might catch a cold. She tells him to leave her alone, but Akamori thinks to himself that he can't just walk away from her in this situation. Now that he sees her more carefully, he notices that her uniform is dirty and her skirt is full of wrinkles. When he asks her why she doesn't go home, she responds that she has no place to go. This worries Akamori a lot, so he asks her what she means by that. He thinks to himself that from the beginning, there must be a reason behind all of this, ever since he saw her sitting under the rain. Gathering his courage, he asks her if she would like to come home with him, thinking to himself that she must have a serious problem that she cannot discuss with others. He is confused but believes that everything cannot stay like this forever, and although he doesn't know what's happening, he wants to help her. Akamori asks if she's really okay, and if she truly means it, and Saoto answers yes if he agrees with that. When Akamori sees her expression, he remembers a girl who always had that kind of face. He thinks that it would be a lot of help for her, so he responds that they should leave together. Later that night, they arrive at Akamori's house where he ends up offering her a bath. He gives her a couple of towels and clothes, and she can only thank him. Akamori thinks to himself about the bold move he is making since they could be classmates, but he wonders if it's really okay to let someone, especially a girl he is not familiar with, stay at his house. He considers whether it's even legal, but he can't just walk away from her. Despite not understanding the reason or the situation she is going through, he couldn't let her go even though he didn't expect her to accept his offer. He thinks to himself that this is something positive anyway, because if a girl accepts the invitation to your house, several things could happen. Resigning himself to reality, he starts to cook, saying that above all, he is not interested because his type is more attractive and elegant. He is interrupted by Saoto, who is leaving the bathroom, and he is left speechless because of her beauty. This confuses him a bit, so he asks if something is happening. She says it's nothing, but Akamori thinks to himself that a girl just came out of the bathroom and is also wearing his clothes. He says to himself that this is simply a work of God and regrets any inconvenience. He responds by saying not to worry. They start eating, and she is surprised by how delicious it is but apologizes, saying it's just fried rice. Akamori, however, says that since he started living alone, maybe his cooking has improved. This surprises her a little, so she asks if he's really living on his own. This confuses him a bit because he didn't expect to have a conversation with her. Akamori responds by saying that, yes, he is temporarily living on his own. He explains that he applied to this school before knowing about his father's job transfer, so when he was about to enter school, the transfer was not possible for him, so his father and sister moved first, and he would follow them the next year. This surprises her a little, and she says that she also wants to ask him something. She mentions that she didn't have an idea where to go, so he asks her what she meant by that. He tells her that if she doesn't want to talk about it, he won't pressure her to give an answer. But Saoto takes courage and answers that when she was a child, her parents divorced, and from that moment on, she began to live alone with her mother. They were poor, so after entering high school, she began skipping classes to do part-time jobs. However, when she came home after finishing one of her part-time jobs, her mother had left. Akamori is shocked by this and asks what she meant by that, and if she didn't leave her a note or something. Saoto shakes her head and says that a long time ago, her mother got a new boyfriend, and she believes that her mother could have gone with him. This touches Akamori's heart. After that, Saoto says the landlord told her that they were behind on rent, and since she didn't have enough money, she left the apartment, taking what she could carry. When the remaining money began to diminish, she had no choice but to go to the park. Akamori, feeling sorry for her, thinks to himself that it's hard to believe that her mother ran away with her boyfriend while her daughter worked hard to help with the family's finances. He thinks that someone like that doesn't deserve to be called a mother. He asks Saoto what she plans to do from now on, and she says she doesn't know. He then interrupts her, saying that if she has nowhere to go, she could stay at his home. This surprises her, and she says that he doesn't have to do that since it has caused him enough trouble just letting her into his house. She thinks it's normal for her to feel worried and be on guard, but Akamori reassures her, promising that it wasn't some dirty trick. He tells her that while she's there, she's free to use any of the empty rooms, and he also promises that he will not talk about her situation with anyone. Although this has nothing to do with him, he cannot simply leave her there after hearing her circumstances. What made him think like this was the memory of his first love, Saoto, who was always alone in the corner of the class. Although she never responded when he spoke to her, he couldn't help but feel curious about her. When he saw Saoto standing under the rain, he felt as if her figure was superimposed with that girl's. He regrets not being there for that girl back then and is determined not to make the same mistake with Saoto. She interrupts his thoughts by asking if he is really okay. He reassures her by saying, of course, they should help each other when in trouble. He asks if she is okay with him taking care of her, which makes her blush a little, but she says it's fine. Akamori, however, says that he wants to promise her one thing, which confuses her a little. Akamori tells her that he's not going to ask for rent, but if she wants to do her part-time jobs, he hopes she does them in moderation. He also encourages her to go to school so that she can recover her normal lifestyle. Although this worries him a little, Saoto agrees, thanking Akamori for everything. And just like that, their cohabitation life has begun, but obviously along with some concerns. The next day, Akamori is preparing breakfast, thinking to himself when was the last time he did breakfast, since he normally goes to school without eating because he's too lazy to have breakfast. On the other hand, he is unable to continue doing that now that Saoto is staying with him. Although it was not what he had anticipated, he has given Saoto the room that belonged to his younger sister. This means that she is currently sleeping in the bed that belonged to his younger sister. Observing the time, he is curious about whether or not she is prepared. Taking into consideration that she was completely drenched in the rain the day before, it is possible that she contracted a cold. Akamori decides to go upstairs to check on her, and upon her arrival, she discovers that she is still sleeping. Despite the fact that he is relieved that she is only sleeping, witnessing her in this state makes him realize how stunning she is. His eyes are drawn to her long lashes and red lips, which contrast with her white skin. The thought that crosses his mind is, she really does have a beautiful face. Even if someone were to examine her sleeping face in great detail, they would not be able to determine that she is the Saoto that everyone is talking about. Although Saoto is beginning to wake up, Akamori is extremely frightened because he is concerned that she may report him for harassment. As a result, he is at a loss for what to do. Even though he is attempting to act as though he has just entered the room, his entire body is shaking. He is trying to figure out where he can hide. Saoto gets up and asks where she is, despite the fact that she is aware that she is in Akamori's house. However, she is still interested in continuing to sleep. She is informed by Akamori that breakfast is ready, and that she should wash her face and come down to the downstairs area. The response that Saoto gives is that she will follow through with that, but she ends up hitting her head on her way to the restroom. After some time has passed, they begin eating while reflecting on their own thoughts. As a result of Akamori's lack of knowledge regarding topics to discuss, he is experiencing discomfort. When he was able to act normally the day before, it was because of his impulse to bring her to his house. However, now that they are back together, it is awkward for him to be in the same room. However, despite the fact that they are classmates, yesterday was the first time they communicated with one another. This is something that cannot be avoided. When he thinks about what they did the night before, he doubts that it was the best course of action. A question from Saoto, who inquires as to whether or not he is going to eat, interrupts his train of thought. The fact that they are unable to go together would raise suspicions, so he suggests that she should go to school a little bit later than she normally would. They are unable to go together without arousing suspicions, so Akamori tells her that he will be there earlier so that she can go to school later. He is still feeling uneasy about the situation. According to him, the uniform is now ready to be worn. Saoto expresses her gratitude to him, stating that she doubted his ability to accomplish anything of this nature. The response that Akamori gives is that things were not always like this. He did not begin doing any housework until he was in high school, and it was very challenging at first. It is remarkable what people are capable of doing when they are in a difficult situation. He reassures her that she does not need to be concerned about what will occur from this point forward, stating that he is confident that everything will be all right. He hands her a set of keys and explains to her that they are the ones that belong to the house. Akamori responds that they will be required because they will be living together, in response to her question about whether or not he is certain about giving them to her. Additionally, he suggests that they begin addressing each other by their names from this point forward, as it is a peculiar experience to experience living together while still acting as if they are strangers. From this point forward, Saoto is free to refer to her as Aoi. When Akamori is thinking to himself, he realizes that it is essential to reduce the distance that separates them in order to begin from scratch. Currently, the action is taking place at Akamori's school, where his friend Eiji has arrived to meet him. Due to the fact that Akamori has been constantly moving from one location to another for as long as he can remember, he is the only person who has ever known Akamori before. Despite the fact that Eiji has become more handsome than he was before, he pays no attention to Akamori. Asamiya Izumi, Eiji's girlfriend, gives him a hug. The two of them have been together since they were in high school, but since then, they have become overly possessive and annoying. Because of this, the moment that Akamori and Eiji were sharing is disrupted, and Akamori makes an effort to get their attention by wishing them a good morning. Eiji gives a response, stating that it appears that Akamori arrived yesterday. As they continue to converse, Saoto walks in, and everyone immediately begins talking behind her back. Due to the fact that the school is full of people who are not friendly, Akamori goes to greet her and wishes her a good morning. A chilly response is given by Saoto, and Izumi inquires of Akamori about the well-being of their normal Saoto. In his own thoughts, Akamori makes the observation that Izumi possesses a very powerful mentality because she is the only student who talks to Saoto without being concerned about how the other students in the class would perceive her. Although Akamori believes that Saoto's life is going well for the time being because she is staying at his place, he is concerned about what will occur when she eventually changes schools. Eiji takes note of Akamori's concern and inquires as to whether or not everything is in order. It is clear to Eiji that Akamori is troubled, despite the fact that he dismisses it as nothing of significance. Despite the fact that Akamori declines Eiji's offer of assistance, she expresses her gratitude to him nonetheless. Later that night, it starts to rain again, and it gets cold. Akamori looks for a sweater, realizing that he will need more clothes in the future. Saoto sees him and tells him to put on the sweater since it's cold. She asks if he's sure, and Akamori responds that he is, thanking her for the suggestion. Taking advantage of the moment, Saoto asks if he's free tomorrow. Akamori answers yes, since he has nothing planned. Saoto then asks if he would like to go shopping together. Akamori is very flustered by the question, thinking that she doesn't have to do it if she doesn't want to, but she responds that it's fine. She just has never gone out with a boy before, so it's her first time. Akamori, feeling very nervous, says that's not it. He just wanted her to have her own things for her daily needs and some clothes. He's really glad that she accepted the invitation, but she says she still doesn't have enough money until she manages to get a part-time job. Akamori responds by telling her not to worry about that. She protests, saying that it would be wrong, but Akamori insists, saying that he has money saved up for an emergency, and he thinks this is the right time to use it. This way, she could make her life a little easier. Saoto, after a moment of hesitation, asks if this is really okay, and Akamori answers yes. Saoto ends up thanking Akamori, and he thinks to himself that whenever she thanks him, she always seems to be embarrassed. Given the circumstances, it's understandable, but every time she makes that face, it makes his chest hurt a little. On Saturday, Akamori and Saoto went to the mall for some shopping. Akamori suggested that Saoto check out some clothes because she had no choice but to wear her uniform all day. They stopped by a clothing store, and then Akamori made the suggestion. During the time that Saoto was perusing the garments, Akamori was under the impression that he was already aware that this shop catered to Saoto's preferences. However, he observed that the majority of the customers in the store were female. On the other hand, he pondered whether he ought to have chosen a store that was appealing to both girls and boys, such as ZU or Uniqlo. Akamori went over to Saoto and inquired as to whether or not she had noticed anything that intrigued her. Saoto stated that it was difficult to make a decision, so she inquired of Akamori what kinds of garments he believed would be appropriate for her. He responded by saying that she should choose the clothes that she liked the most because she was the one who was going to be paying for them, rather than asking him about his preferences. She was convinced that if he made the decision for her, it would be beneficial to her. One could say that Akamori was a little taken aback by the fact that such a significant role would be assigned to him. It was his opinion that if he had to choose the prim and proper type, which consists of a blouse or top in a bright color, and a long skirt for the bottom to give the impression of fullness would be the best option. However, he believed that a pleated skirt would be even more ideal. Nevertheless, putting his inclination to the side, he was completely clueless about the kinds of clothes that girls prefer to wear. As a result, he inquired, would garish clothing be preferable? When Saoto inquired about the reason behind the flashy clothes, she responded that she favored clothes that were more subdued. She was asked by Akamori if she would be okay with being a neat and clean type, and she was curious as to whether or not she was the third type, which is a girl who is neat and proper. Before asking Saoto what she thought about the clothes that the mannequin was wearing, he pointed to a mannequin that was on display and asked her opinion. Akamori waited outside the dressing room while Saoto tried on the clothes because she had been told by Saoto that she would try them on. What would happen if someone from school saw Akamori and Saoto together? Akamori was concerned about the situation because he believed that there were still an excessive number of people in the shopping mall. There is a possibility that a strange rumor, according to which they were secretly dating, could spread, which would be very annoying. If the circumstances surrounding Saoto's living situation or their cohabitation were to become public knowledge, it would be a major source of concern. He was of the opinion that they should hurry up and finish what they had come to do and then head back home as soon as they could. It was at that precise moment that Saoto emerged from the dressing room, dressed in the garments that Akamori had chosen. She inquired on his thoughts and feelings. Akamori was taken aback when he looked at her and thought that, despite the fact that he had selected the garments, they were a perfect fit for her personality. However, if there was one thing that he felt compelled to bring to his attention, Saoto inquired once more about his thoughts. He remarked to her that the outfit was particularly flattering on her. After that, Akamori suggested that they purchase those garments in addition to a few other sets. However, Saoto insisted that she could not have him purchase her multiple sets of clothing. Despite the fact that Akamori assured her that she did not have to be reserved, Saoto worried about her. At every time he attempted to purchase something for her, she would give him that sad face. As far as Saoto was concerned, her feelings of gratitude were trumped by her feelings of causing trouble. As a result, Akamori proposed that she could repay him whenever she had some extra cash on hand. He reminded her that, as he had stated the day before, he desired for both of them to lead a comfortable life, and that she could consider this to be an advance payment by thinking about it in that way. It was Akamori's intention to suggest a method in which Saoto would not be concerned with insignificant particulars. In response to her inquiry, Akamori made an effort to reassure her that everything was fine. At long last, she declared that she would acknowledge his word for it. Despite the fact that she was in agreement with him, Akamori observed that the expression she gave him was still somewhat stiff. However, it was the very first smile she had ever given him, and the fact that it was so happy made him happy. On the other hand, he requested that she go to a different store and check them out to see if there was anything else that she was interested in purchasing. Saoto responded that she was fine. In order to get her to go to a beauty salon, he first asked her if she would be willing to accompany him for a short period of time. When Saoto looked around, she was taken aback to see that they were in a beauty salon. It was impossible for Akamori to stop thinking about the troubled expression that she had given him earlier. In spite of the fact that he was a complete fan of black hair, he would allow Saoto to choose the color of her hair in order to make her even more attractive. Saoto, on the other hand, put up a little bit of resistance and stated that it would most certainly be expensive. For her part, Akamori insisted that she should not be hesitant. At that very moment, the door to the salon opened, and a tall man emerged to greet them after they had entered. Akamori was perplexed as to why all male beauticians happened to be so attractive. However, he informed the man that they did not have a scheduled appointment, but he inquired as to whether or not it would be acceptable. Without a doubt, the hairdresser inquired as to whether or not both of them required a hair treatment. After urging Saoto to come forward, Akamori assured her that he was fine and that they should take care of her. He requested that his assistant bring his girlfriend to her seat at the salon where he was working. Saoto suffered from extreme embarrassment and became flustered. Asking what was wrong, Akamori inquired. In a hesitant manner, Saoto expressed his regret and claimed that she was not his girlfriend. The way that Akamori put her at ease was by suggesting that the hairdresser might not have intended it to be that way, but rather in a manner that was more customer-oriented. Saoto's embarrassment grew even more intense, and she covered her face with both hands before claiming that she had lost her train of thought. On the other hand, Akamori believed that there was no need to correct the situation, even if she thought that she was called that. After that, she informed him that this was her very first time visiting a beauty parlor. and she felt that she ought to respond in an appropriate manner. Akamori pondered whether or not this was an example of naivety or simply plain ignorance of the ways of the world. Ever since he had accepted her invitation to come home, he had been gradually becoming aware of it. On the basis of her appearance as well as her behavior, anyone who saw her for the first time would undoubtedly have the impression that she was a juvenile offender. However, if they were to actually speak with her, they would immediately recognize that there was a gap in their communication. Even more surprising was the fact that she was working part-time jobs in order to assist with the financial needs of the family. In light of the fact that this was her very first time at a beauty salon, Akamori inquired about her methods of operation up to this point. She informed him that her mother would be the one to cut her hair, and with regard to the color of her hair, her mother suggested, "Let's bleach it together," so they made the decision to bleach it at home. Akamori inquired as to whether or not she was not a Jaru. Saoto was totally taken aback and inquired as to the reason behind his belief. Akamori came to the conclusion that Saoto was neither a Jaru nor a criminal. It was for the purpose of assisting with the family's financial situation that she frequently skipped classes. The fact that she wanted to bleach her hair did not prevent her from doing so. The image of Saoto as the blonde Jaru who had a tendency to skip school would be removed, and she would be revealed to be nothing more than a typical young lady who had a lot of thoughts about her mother. The hairdresser, who was present and listening to their conversation, expressed his gratitude for the opportunity to serve as her first beautician on the occasion of her debut at the beauty parlor. He escorted her to a chair for styling and then put on the cape from the salon. After Saoto had taken a seat, he took a look at her hair and inquired about the best way to proceed with today's activities. While this was going on, Akamori, who was standing in the waiting area and waiting for Saoto from a distance, thought that now that he had realized that she was neither a girl nor a delinquent, her reaction was so adorable. In the event that he was able to make her look more attractive, he informed the hairdresser that he would leave it up to him. As the beautician began to style her hair, Akamori had the profound impression that they had completely misunderstood her expectations. In reality, the girl in question was not a troublemaker. Rather, she was a reserved and charitable individual. Because of her flamboyant hairstyle and her habit of skipping school, they had ultimately decided to maintain their distance from her. However, they were unable to avoid causing a misunderstanding because Saoto was also a very reserved young lady. In spite of the fact that it was impossible to eliminate the situation, he couldn't help but wonder if things would have been very different if her circumstances had been more typical. That being said, assumptions would not alter the past in any way. If, on the other hand, it is about the future, then it is still open to modification. In this moment, he pondered what he could do to assist her. During the time that he was preoccupied with his thoughts, Saoto approached him and thanked him for waiting. Following that, she demonstrated to Akamori her new hairstyle. It came as a complete and utter surprise to him to see her lustrous black hair. Saoto inquired as to whether or not it was peculiar. On the other hand, Akamori believed that she could not have undergone a more significant transformation than this, but he could not possibly say that is the case. Saoto was just informed by him that he believed it was a very good fit for her. Saoto expressed some skepticism and inquired as to whether or not he was lying. However, he responded by asking, "Why would I lie?" So at that point, she considered it to be ok. Once Akamori had finished paying the beautician, they exited the salon and went their separate ways. Akamori had the intention of grabbing lunch and then heading back home while they were at it. However, because there were so many people in the area, it was highly likely that they would be observed by someone. So he asked Saoto if they should go home now and buy other things online regardless of what they were doing. However, before they could decide what to do, someone recognized him and informed them that he was out with a girl on a date. It turns out that it was no one but Eiji and his girlfriend. All of them went to a cafeteria. While Akamori was exhausted from all of the shopping he had done, Izumi was showing a great deal of excitement. Eiji stated to Akamori that he should not be overly concerned about the situation because it was not as if he intended to capture and consume him. Nevertheless, Akamori was pondering the question of where he ought to begin. With the way things were going, a justification that was not prepared would only add more loopholes to the situation. In any case, if he attempted to explain what took place, it would unavoidably constitute an invasion of Saoto's personal security. On the other hand, if he were to reveal it to them, and it caused rumors to spread in some way, that would be problematic. When he was discovered by these two, he was unable to comprehend whether it was a fortunate occurrence or a misfortune. Nevertheless, he inquired of Saoto whether or not they could confide in them. He told Saoto to be sure that even if these two individuals were to become aware of their predicament, they would not take it lightly or spread the word about it. He explained to her that they were his friends, and that everyone else there was a good person who had a background that was straight and uncluttered. Yes, he was able to verify that. After a brief moment of reflection, Saoto informed Akamori that he was free to discuss the matter. She did not have any objections to this. Akamori expressed her gratitude to her and then began to explain this situation to Iji and Izumi. First and foremost, he suggested that they should get a little bit closer to one another, and he hoped that they would be able to keep it a secret. Following this potential conversation, he had high hopes that it would remain a secret. Iji asserted that it was contingent upon the particulars, but that maintaining confidentiality was not a challenge. Izumi concurred with him, and as a result, Akamori shared with them all of the events that had transpired. In spite of the fact that it was different from what he had anticipated, Iji expressed that he was still a little surprised. On the other hand, he inquired of Akamori what he intended to do after that. Akamori informed him that he desired to resolve matters with Saoto prior to entering the second grade. These issues included the location of Saoto's residence as well as the rumors that circulated at school. Although he had not yet considered what to do, he was determined to find solutions to all of these issues. This information came as a surprise to Saoto. Akamori continued by saying that despite the fact that they had unexpectedly begun living together, it was only recently that they had begun to communicate with one another. There is a possibility that they should first determine what is the most essential, but he had already made up his mind. He was under the impression that when he learned about Saoto's predicament, his initial thought was about her resilience, even before he became concerned about her well-being. In addition, it was a reason to overlap the phase of his first love with Saoto he was experiencing. The fact that it was a reason to become someone's strength was all that he required, despite the fact that he had not initially considered it to be the case. Following that, Akamori inquired with his friend about the possibility of keeping it a secret. Eiji stated that it was obvious that Akamori's behavior was characterized by an unreasonable level of kindness. Akamori was taken aback and inquired as to whether or not this was truly his style. In response, Eiji stated that despite the fact that Akamori was not the type of person who would help others on a casual basis, he did not hesitate to take action when the situation was extremely critical. Akamori pondered whether or not he actually engaged in such behavior. Was it possible that he had done so when he was in kindergarten? Akamori took notice of Izumi, who was crying, and inquired about the details of the situation. She stated that she needed assistance as well. Eiji made an effort to calm her down and inquired of Akamori whether he would like to specify a time limit prior to making the transition to the second grade. The fact that Akamori had been unable to speak up until now was due to the fact that he believed that he had regarded it as a separation from the two of them. To put it another way, if he were to say it in plain language, he would have to acknowledge the sensation of parting ways. In light of this, he informed them that he would be changing schools once more. When Eiji and Izumi heard that, they were taken aback, and Saoto went on to inquire as to why. He explained to them that all of his family members, with the exception of himself, had relocated away during the spring because of his father's transfer. He had made the decision to enroll first because he had been accepted by the high school he was attending at the time, and he planned to wait until the second grade to transfer. After being taken aback, Izumi inquired of Akamori whether or not Hayori was still present. He explained to her that she was in the third year of junior high school, which meant that she would be able to get ready for the entrance exam for middle school if she and her family left together. On the other hand, she had refrained from informing Izumi about their predicament because she was worried that he would be unable to successfully bring it up to both of them. The relationship that existed between Izumi and Hayori was the only way to convey this information to them, and he felt a great deal of regret for doing so. From this point forward, he desired for them to maintain their current relationship and continued to get along well with her. On the other hand, Izumi stated that it was a natural occurrence, whereas Eiji stated that it was unfortunate. On the other hand, Akamori requested that they discuss particular matters at a later time. As long as both of them were in agreement, Eiji stated that they could talk whenever they wanted. Following a brief period of time, Akamori made the decision to return home. However, Saoto informed him that she had a small task to complete, and that he could go ahead of her. Before offering to accompany her, Akamori inquired as to whether or not she had forgotten to purchase something. But Izumi asked Saoto to accompany her on her shopping excursion. After that, she bid farewell to Eiji and disappeared from the cafeteria. Later, when Akamori and his friend were left alone, Akamori inquired as to the reason behind their actions. It was probably not a good place to go with a man, according to what Eiji did to him. Therefore, Akamori inquired about the location of that location. It was out of style, according to his friend, to ask him this question. Despite the fact that Akamori was unable to comprehend what was wrong with him, there was no reason for her to be concerned if Izumi was with her. On the other hand, Akamori inquired of Eiji whether or not they would actually declare "I love you" in public. This was simply due to the fact that they were romantically involved, Eiji explained. On the other hand, Akamori insisted that lovers could communicate with one another without the use of words. His friend responded by saying that he believed that people, particularly men and women, who were unable to understand each other without the use of words, were in need of verbal communication. Even members of the same family who were related by blood were unable to comprehend one another in the absence of communication channels. For someone to want another person to find their heart as a lover of the opposite sex was an excessive amount of desire. On the inside, he continued to say that Akamori had no idea what Saoto wanted to purchase, and that it was of the utmost importance for them to verbalize their thoughts. It was also very important to make a conscious effort to avoid asking questions and to act as though one was not paying attention. Concern, on the other hand, should not be confused with politeness, and if they wanted to be with important people for the rest of their lives, they needed to establish communication with one another first. That is the way that it transpired. Consequently, he inquired of Akamori whether he did not believe that in order to comprehend Saoto, he ought not to miss the opportunity to engage in conversation with her. Because Saoto was still the kind of person who wouldn't reveal her true thoughts, it was especially important for him to gain a deeper understanding of her. As a result, he wished him the very best results. Akamori was perplexed as to how Eiji could have known that, and he seemed to speak as if he was very familiar with Saoto. It was Eiji who stated that he knew a great deal more than he did because he had not lived there throughout the entire year. After that, Akamori went home, and while he was waiting for Saoto, he began preparing dinner for himself for dinner. Despite the fact that he considered sending a message to Saoto, he decided against it because he did not want to disturb her. Akamori believed that this was probably how a boyfriend would feel in general when he was waiting for the lover he lived with to return home. Nevertheless, he chooses to concentrate on the burger patties for the time being. When the door suddenly opened, Saoto was there waiting for him. She extended her apologies to Akamori for her tardiness. She was asked by Akamori if she had returned. Izumi had lunch after she had finished shopping, and then they continued to talk for a long time, according to Saoto. In addition to expressing her regret once more, she informed him that she intended to return in the near future. The message that Akamori conveyed to her was that there was no reason to feel sorry, and that everything was fine. There was no requirement to apologize. Saoto shared with him that her mother would always become irate with her whenever she found herself running late. Akamori believed that the reason she was so terrified was because she was expecting to arrive home late. Perhaps it was due to the fact that she had been punished to this degree. After all, she was raised by the same mother who ignored her own daughter, and it was not difficult to picture her actually engaging in behavior similar to this. Akamori recalled what his friend had told him, which was that he could not combine concern and politeness, and that if they wanted to understand each other, they needed to communicate with one another. Therefore, Akamori requested that Saoto engage in conversation for a short period of time. Today, he inquired as to whether or not she had enjoyed playing with Izumi. A small smile appeared on Saoto's face, and she expressed exuberant joy. Akamori inquired as to whether or not he could inquire about the precise level of happiness that she was experiencing. Because her mother was so strict and always made her stay at home on her days off, she told him that up until this point, she had almost no one to play with. She explained that this was the reason. This day, Akamori and Izumi took her to a number of different locations. She even spoke for a total of several hours. As soon as she realized how happy she was, she had already forgotten about the difficult times that she had been going through. In the event that this was the case, Akamori reminded her that she should not be concerned about being late. She had a good time today, which made him happy. When he was a child, he would play with his friends until he forgot the time and never realized that it was already late. He said that when they were happy, time flew by, just like when he never realized that it was already late. He stated that every family faces a unique set of circumstances. Despite the fact that he was unaware of what Saoto's mother thought, he was overjoyed to see that she was able to have such a good time that she neglected to notice the passing of time. In addition, he mentioned that he was a little worried about it because he did not know when she would return home. However, he emphasized that this did not mean that he was going to become angry toward her. Rather, he was just concerned about her. She was asked by Akamori if it is possible that she will send him a message at some point in the future so that he can wait without anxiety. He instructed Saoto to stay in touch with him the next time. If she could avoid being this late, Saoto promised that she would get in touch with him. On the other hand, Akamori thought it was wonderful that Izumi was able to develop a positive relationship with her counterpart. Saoto reported that she had a good time, but she was not very good at speaking with other people. It is possible that Izumi would find it dull. She was informed by Akamori that this was not the case, and she was asked if she could have some fun. And wouldn't Izumi be content as well? Saoto expressed that she felt a little bit of envy toward Akamori because she had the potential to become friends with Izumi and Iji. The realization dawned on Akamori that it appeared to be the very first time that Saoto had publicly admitted his guilt to him. Therefore, he informed Saoto that Izumi must have already considered her to be a reliable friend. However, Saoto inquired about the ways in which individuals could find her appealing. It is important for her to get ready because Akamori informed her that beginning tomorrow, he would talk to her more than he ever had before. On the other hand, Saoto reported that she would be extremely content if he were to treat her as if she were a friend. Instantaneously, they became aware of smoke emanating from the window of the kitchen. As Akamori made his way toward the kitchen, he discovered that the burger patties had completely burned. It was impossible for Saoto to contain her amusement when she saw this, and she immediately began laughing. Saoto expressed her regret and stated that she had always believed that Akamori was a person who was capable of accomplishing anything, and that the idea of such a failure was somewhat intriguing with her. Akamori acknowledged that there were some things that could not be completed perfectly. In the beginning of his life as an independent person, he made a mistake with the salt and sugar, and the miso soup he prepared was also so flawed that he was unable to consume it at all. He stated that it would have been acceptable if it had only been cooking, but he failed to remember to put detergent in the washing machine when he was washing clothes, and there was also a time when the dust from the vacuum cleaner was all over the place. In addition, Akamori mentioned that if there were an excessive amount of responsibilities, he would simply let them go and go to sleep. Hearing all of this made Saoto feel a great deal of mirth. On the other hand, they chose to consume the charred patties with a couple of grains of rice and a side of vegetables. In response to Akamori's statement that it seemed as though it wouldn't be as delicious, Saoto was of the opinion that if this were the case, it could serve as a pleasant reminder of his initial failure with her. It was stated by Akamori that he was unable to guarantee that. He believed that if he were by himself, he would be unable to do anything but hang his head in shame and contemplate his failure. But if there were two people, they would be able to simply laugh it off. Therefore, he made the decision to think about it in this manner and came to the conclusion that not being alone was a blessing. When Akamori went to bed later that night, he reflected on the fact that he had spent a significant amount of time talking with Saoto earlier in the day, and that his mind was so busy that he was unable to fall asleep. It was then that he went to the kitchen to get a glass of water, and while he was there, he noticed that Saoto was sitting on the couch. Consequently, when he approached her in order to cover her with a blanket, he observed that she was waiting for the laundry to be done when he approached her. Because he couldn't just leave them there for an indefinite amount of time, he made the decision to assist her by placing them in the dryer. When he was in the process of removing them from the bundle in preparation for drying them, he suddenly discovered that he was holding a floral bandeau. It dawned on Akamori that she had gone to the store to purchase her undergarments. He did not waste any time and promptly re-enclosed it in the bundle. He then made the decision to act as though he had not seen it, and went back to his room. On the other hand, Saoto woke before he could even move. Akamori made an effort to explain the situation by stating that he had not come there with any malicious intent at all. He was in a state of panic and attempted to explain to her that he was going to assist her in putting the clothes in the dryer for the reason that she had fallen asleep. After that, he stated that it was inevitable that there would be a change of clothes. After that, he stated that he believed she had good taste, and immediately after he made that statement, he became aware of the reason he had made that statement. As a result of him telling Saoto that it was wonderful that she had woken up, he decided to leave it up to her. After that, he dashed up through the stairs to his room, shut the door behind him, and collapsed onto his bed. He was under the impression that he had made a mistake, and that it was now truly over. 2 days have passed since that evening, and it is already Monday. Since Saturday, when Saoto saw Akamori holding up her underwear, they both decided on some rules. In accordance with the first rule, they are required to have their own laundry baskets and to wash their own clothes. The second rule is to get in touch with the other and let them know if they are going to be late. The third rule states that Akamori is responsible for cooking and Saoto is in charge of cleaning. Due to the fact that they are living together, they will communicate openly from this point forward. Even though Akamori was only able to see her bando, he thought it was a view that was quite pleasant. Living together is indeed complicated. Now Akamori is already in class. In accordance with the decision that they had made, Saoto arrives in the classroom a short time after him, and everyone is taken aback when she actually walks in. In the beginning, nobody was able to identify her. Akamori, on the other hand, is of the opinion that it is obvious that everyone would be surprised because a beautiful woman with black hair has suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Even before she had a chance to settle into her seat, Izumi rushes over to her and gives her a hug, expressing her gratitude to Saoto for her earlier assistance. Each and every person is taken aback when they learn that it is Saoto. The question of whether or not Saoto has dyed her hair is posed to her by a few of the other students in the class. On the other hand, there are still some of their classmates who are laughing and talking about her. Despite the fact that Akamori does not believe that people will change their opinion of Saoto simply because she dyed her hair, she believes that things should gradually improve. Several days later, at Akamori's residence, he extended an invitation to Eiji and Izumi to join him. Immediately following the delivery of the beverages that they had requested, Izumi inquires of Akamori what he would like to discuss. In his conversation with them, Akamori expresses his desire to discuss Saoto's future and expresses his desire to receive some guidance from both of them. Since they first met Eiji and Izumi at the shopping center, he has provided them with all of the information, including the circumstances surrounding Saoto. Since that evening, they have made a commitment to communicate openly with one another. As a result, he informs Saoto once more that he desired to explain everything to them, and she agreed to satisfy his request. Akamori shares with his friends that, as he has stated previously, he is interested in enhancing Saoto's circumstances. However, he is unsure of how to begin, and therefore he is wanting to hear their thoughts on the matter. According to Akamori, when viewed from a different angle, they have two issues. First and foremost, Saoto's appearance is the reason why both her instructors and her pupils have a negative impression of her. In spite of the fact that there is not a lot of room for debate, Saoto is not a Jairu. His goal is for everyone to be aware that she is a girl who is unremarkable and unremarkable. In spite of the fact that Eiji believes that it is absolutely essential for everyone to view her in that manner, he is unable to figure out how to accomplish something of that nature. On the other hand, Akamori already has a strategy in place to rectify the misunderstanding, which is why he is approaching Izumi for assistance. It is his hope that she will serve as a go-between for the class and Saoto, given that she is a member of the class committee and that everyone has mutual respect for her. If Izumi takes the initiative to get closer to Saoto, he believes that others will soon follow suit. However, he is unable to guarantee that the reputation of a committee member will not be damaged as a result of being associated with a criminal. Because of this, they will be required to take that risk. Izumi, however, claims that she has already made up her mind. Her behavior is not one of going with the flow, rather she does whatever she wants to do. There are a lot of people who have misconceptions, and she does not want to see other people suffer simply because they have a look that is associated with criminality. On top of that, they already have a friendship. Akamori believes that he is no longer concerned about Saoto as a result of this circumstance. However, according to Eiji, it will be difficult to simply clear up the misunderstanding with everyone, particularly with the teachers. Therefore, Eiji inquires as to whether or not it is related to her academic ability. In light of everything that Akamori has said, he believes that the students' perception of her will gradually shift over time. However, he believes that the most effective way to change the minds of the teachers would be to achieve high grades. Akamori inquires about Saoto's performance on the midterm examinations. She pulls out her result sheet and informs him that she has failed all of her subjects with the exception of one, and that she will also be required to take supplementary classes next semester. Saoto admits that she is a little embarrassed and that she had no choice but to work because of the circumstances in her family. As a result, she avoided going to school as much as she should have. Akamori reassures her that everything will be fine and suggests that she should prioritize avoiding failing classes first. He reassures her that from this point forward, they will give their every effort. There is a sense of being overpowered that Akamori is experiencing, and he believes that the more he tries to assist her, the more he makes mistakes. Izumi, on the other hand, assures her that she have nothing to worry about because she is able to assist her with her studies. Izumi tops her class on a consistent basis, and she is a very intelligent student. This would be the best option. According to Akamori, this is a good suggestion, and it is not necessary for it to be just Izumi and Saoto. It would be nice if all of them studied together. Izumi becomes ecstatic and expresses her enthusiasm by stating that a sleepover to study sounds like a wonderful idea. The suggestion that Akamori makes is that his house would be fine if they did not have any issues with this. Nevertheless, Akamori points out that there is still one issue to be resolved, and that is the question of where Saoto will reside in the years to come. Until he moves to a new location in March of next year, he is only able to provide her with accommodations. Until then, they have the opportunity to locate a new location where she can live in peace. On the other hand, Iji asserts that, in all honesty, this is a significant issue. After a moment of reflection, Akamori realizes that he has once again forgotten how challenging it is for a student to be without parents. Although he is unable to know everything, he is aware of how challenging it can be to live by oneself. What one person may consider to be typical may not be comparable to what others consider to be normal. The fact that Saoto is like this makes him an easy target, and none of them can even fathom the possibility of something like that happening. While he is looking at Saoto, he has the thought that the fact that she is smiling could be considered a miracle in its own particular way. In light of the fact that Iji believes that the most suitable option for her would be to have a relative take care of her, he inquires of Saoto whether or not she has grandparents. She reveals to him that she has not been in contact with her family for a considerable amount of time, but that she did have a chance encounter with her maternal grandmother when she was a child. Therefore, Akamori inquires as to whether or not she is aware of their residence. It is only through her knowledge that she is aware that they are not from this city. In light of the fact that they won't be losing anything by searching for her family, Akamori suggests that it is worth a try. They come to the conclusion that the best way to address the confusion regarding Saoto is to first move forward with the plan. Saoto expresses her gratitude to all for assisting her. Izumi will be the one to lead the way as they begin their plan the following day. Izumi solicits Saoto's participation in their group after the instructor instructs them to form groups within the classroom in preparation for a presentation. During this time, the other members of the group are exhibiting a sense of suspicion. But Izumi tells them that Saoto is easy to talk to and a good person. She is sure they will both become good friends with her. Saoto greets the other two group members. Akamori watches all this and thinks that he can't do the same as Izumi, but thanks to her communicative power, little by little, their classmates are relaxing more around Saoto. Gradually, Saoto is able to talk to other girls, and as he and Iji are guys, they behave the same as everyone else, and this simple action works very well. Lately, Akamori notices that many of the classmates are coming to talk to Saoto during every break, which makes Akamori a little jealous, even though he doesn't admit it. Izumi comes to scare off the classmates and says that Saoto is not a show, then asks Saoto to have lunch with her. While they are having lunch in the playground, Izumi asks Saoto if she would like to do some volunteer work. She tells her that she also does volunteer work for the school, doing a lot of things like cleaning and visiting elderly people. If Saoto also does this, she thinks the teachers will have a better image of her. She also tells Saoto that she plays with other kids at an orphanage, but only if Saoto is interested. Izumi was also thinking of asking the guys to participate together. Saoto says she wants to try, and she is sure that with everyone, it will be very fun. Izumi gets excited and asks about doing it on Sunday next week, and tells Saoto to ask Akamori if he has anything in mind. On Sunday, they all gather for the social service, except Eiji because he has other plans. Akamori observes that there are a significant number of people taking part. A tour of the orphanage that they are going to visit today is given to them by Izumi. He is under the impression that he was taken aback when Saoto informed him that she was interested in doing volunteer work. Having contact with the teachers outside of the classroom is something that he believes is beneficial, and he believes that they will be able to see more of Saoto's positive qualities. It is revealed to them by Izumi that the orphanage houses children ranging from kindergarten to elementary school for their education. There are a number of reasons why these children are unable to reside with their parents. When they are studying, she typically plays with them and supervises them at the same time. Izumi claims that their prefecture is home to a great number of locations that are similar to this one. Akamori is taken aback by the number of children who are otherwise unable to reside with their parents. As a result of his own ignorance, he was unaware of this, and he believes that Saoto is in the same predicament as he is. As a result, he inquires of Izumi whether or not it was appropriate to bring Saoto to a location such as this. Although it came as a surprise, Saoto was the one who made the decision regarding the location that they would be visiting this time. The manager informs them that they will be interacting with the children today and playing with them. It is recommended, according to her, to go with what the children want to do. As soon as the door opens, the children are overjoyed to see Izumi and express their gratitude to her for coming. According to Izumi, it has been quite some time, and as a result, they are going to have a great deal of fun today. While this is going on, a young girl can be seen standing in the back corner. At the orphanage, Saoto is playing with a group of young girls, while Akamori and Izumi are having fun with a group of young boys by playing tag. On the other hand, Akamori is of the opinion that when it comes to these children, he does not have to take them too seriously because they have tremendous endurance. He informs Izumi that he will take a short break for a moment. She reassures him that she is going to remain playful with them for a little while longer, and that he does not need to exert any effort on his own. Exhausted, Akamori reflects on the fact that he had the misconception that playing tag with them would be simple, but after a while, he found that he was already exhausted. For someone who is so reserved, it would be an excessive amount of responsibility to engage in play with these hyperactive children. With the intention of putting their plan to enhance Saoto's reputation through volunteer work into action, they went to the orphanage today to engage in play with the children. At that moment, Akamori becomes aware of Saoto interacting with a group of young ladies, and he approaches them. When Saoto asks him if he has finished playing tag, he responds no. He claims that he was considering playing with other children, but he is unable to admit that they were more competent than he was in terms of their physical abilities. Therefore, he approaches Saoto and inquires about the possibility of joining them. All of the young girls who are interacting with Saoto look at Akamori and inquire as to whether or not he is her boyfriend. Despite the fact that Akamori is taken aback, these young girls continue to gaze at him, waiting for him to respond. It's hard for Akamori to believe that children are so mature these days. Saoto reveals to them that he is not her boyfriend before he has the opportunity to say anything else. After that, the children inquire as to whether or not he is her husband, which is an even more embarrassing situation for Akamori. In addition, he reveals to them that he is not her husband even. It is unfortunate, according to the children, that they were hoping that he was Saoto's boyfriend or husband so that they could play the roles of mother and father. They are disappointed and say that it is a shame. As Akamori thinks about it, he is also feeling a little bit disappointed. In spite of the fact that he is not her boyfriend, Saoto responded right away, and he is unable to deny the fact that it is true. On the other hand, Saoto reveals to the children that although he is not her husband or boyfriend, he is nevertheless a very significant individual in her life. If the children are interested, she tells them that they would be happy to play the roles of mother and father, and she asks them if they would be willing to give them a chance. When Akamori hears that, she is taken aback, but the children enthusiastically concur. When asked by Saoto if he is okay with it, Akamori responds, of course, in an effort to match the level of energy that the children are displaying. The statement that Saoto made, which was that he is an important person to her, is currently on his mind. Despite the fact that he is not her boyfriend, husband, or family member, she still referred to him as important. And he is not bothered by the fact that he is holding that title. It seems to him that they are getting closer to one another. While she is interacting with the children, Akamori observes a young lady who is sitting at a table by herself and writing something. Perhaps she is always by herself, he wonders. He is informed by Saoto that they have made an effort to communicate with her, but it appears that she does not wish to communicate with anyone. Akamori is curious as to whether she is too timid to talk to people she does not know or whether she simply enjoys being by herself, but she appears to be very lonely. His decision is to go and make an attempt to talk to her. Saoto gives him the assurance that she will accompany him, but she also suggests that if two high school students go together, Saoto might withdraw from the situation. Orphanage attendant Akamori inquires as to whether or not Saoto is always by himself. He is informed by the attendant that Saoto arrived at the establishment 3 months ago and that she continues to behave in the same manner regardless of how many times they try to talk to her or call her over. Akamori believes that 3 months is sufficient when it comes to adjusting to a new location. However, she believes that it is not sufficient when it comes to overcoming the loneliness that comes with being away from her parents. When he was around that age, he also had a difficult time adjusting to a new school. She also had a difficult time adjusting to a new school when she was that age, which is why they always make an effort to be mindful of how they treat each child. The attendant tells him that she had a similar experience. Nevertheless, she is not yet certain whether or not this girl is one of the more difficult ones to deal with. Because of this, Akamori is prompted to reflect on the significance of performing volunteer work. It is essential that they have the opportunity to interact with the children, but it is equally essential that they get to know the children, such as her, on a personal level. In the absence of such comprehension, individuals are at a loss for what to do with them. When the allotted time for the visit is up, Akamori gathers his belongings and informs Saoto that it is time for him to leave. Saoto is about to get up from her chair when the lonely girl grabs her skirt and asks her to stay. Saoto is hesitant to make the move. While holding her hand, Saoto expresses her regret and explains that she is truly obligated to leave, but she assures her that she will come back to play with her. A pinky promise is made between the two of them after she asks the young girl if she would like to draw with her the next time they meet. As Akamori and Saoto make their way back to their house, Akamori expresses his belief that Saoto desired to spend a marginally longer amount of time with her. Saoto is of the same opinion. He tells her that he was told by a member of the staff that Saoto had visited the facility 3 months ago, but that he has not been interested in speaking with anyone. This is the reason why he was taken aback when he witnessed her conversing with Saoto. He inquires about the topics that they discussed prior to his arrival. According to Saoto, it was nothing substantial. She simply remained by her side without taking any action. Akamori comes to the realization that simply by standing next to Saoto for a short period of time, she was able to make her more open. According to Saoto, Saoto brought back memories of herself when she was a child. She explains that when she was in kindergarten, she was extremely timid, she did not have any friends, and because she was the same as that girl, she did not speak up when people talked to her, which caused her to isolate herself from the other children. During that time period, her parents did not have a solid relationship with one another, and she believes that she was going through a challenging period in her childhood. Despite the fact that she was always extremely lonely and longed for someone to be by her side, good friends just like everyone else, she was unable to express this desire to anyone. At that moment, however, only one of the boys paid attention to her, while the others did not. The man remained by her side. They did not engage in conversation or play. She simply did whatever she desired with him by her side, and it is likely that she did not experience feelings of loneliness as a result of his presence. Akamori is curious as to whether or not Saoto was similar to that girl. A girl from his past who was always tucked away in the corner of the room is something that he remembers. He had his first love with her. He never failed to make an effort to communicate with her, but she never responded to his attempts. Additionally, just when he was finally able to have a conversation with her, he was forced to relocate due to the fact that his father had a job, and he never saw her again. He is sorry that he was unable to make her smile when she appeared to be in such a miserable mood. At this moment, he recalls what Eiji had shared with him, which was that he is someone who is willing to assist anyone who is in need of assistance. At this point, he is aware of what that signifies. He is curious as to whether or not the negative experience he had as a child, in which he attempted to be her friend but ultimately failed, has influenced the way he behaves in the present day. She continues by saying that to everyone else, it might sound silly, but it made her happy, so she did the same thing that boy did for her. Saoto says that she did both of those things. Akamori believes that because Saoto has been through something similar, she is already familiar with how that girl is feeling, and she has done the same thing that made her feel happy at that time. It is certain to him that she comprehended the situation and made certain that Saoto's emotions were acknowledged in the same manner. It is revealed to Saoto by Akamori that both she and that boy were extremely kind. The fact that she went to an orphanage with children who were dealing with issues that were comparable to her own was a surprise to him because he believes that she was unable to provide care for other people as a result of the circumstances in which she found herself. On the other hand, his worries were unfounded. Even in a circumstance such as that, she was extremely caring to everyone. Saoto, on the other hand, explains to Akamori that if he believes that they were kind, then he is even more kind, and this is completely accurate. A reminder is given to Akamori that he did the same thing for her. Akamori is perplexed and inquires as to what she is discussing. Saoto reveals to him that he had a conversation with her on that cloudy day, invited her to his house without making any requests, and that he is still in a relationship with her. When contrasted with what they did, Akamori is even more compassionate. When Akamori hears that, he is taken aback and begins to reflect on everything that he has accomplished. He ponders whether or not those options were the most suitable ones, and if there was another way, he wonders if it would have been more advantageous for Saoto to be approached by someone else. However, the words spoken by Saoto have brought him peace. Therefore, Akamori recommends that they pay that girl another visit. Saoto is in agreement, stating that it is obvious because she had promised her in the first place. Izumi announces to her friends that starting today, they are going to have a study meeting to prepare for the test, 2 nights and 3 days. Akamori has come to the realization that he was so preoccupied with resolving the misunderstandings regarding Saoto that he forgot about it. This realization comes as there are only 10 days left until the grand finale test. On the other hand, Izumi feels that she is extremely content with the fact that Saoto is able to get along with everyone. She had no idea that it would be this simple, but now that they are in this situation, they needed to start studying seriously or else they were going to get into a lot of trouble. Akamori is in agreement with this statement because, the previous time around, Saoto received only failing grades, and if they consider that, it might already be too late. Izumi suggests that they should get together at Akamori's place once the conclusion of the classes has been reached. Izumi tells Akamori that he should get everything ready to accommodate them when he gets home because she will be there around 7 o'clock in the evening. Akamori agrees to this. It has been stated by Iji that he is expected to arrive at the same time as well. Saoto is grateful to each and every one of them for their efforts. Exactly like that, the decision was made that the gathering for the study will take place at Akamori's residence. Subsequent to his arrival at his residence, Akamori informs Saoto that he will be going shopping and requests that she take care of the house. While she is cleaning her room, she tells Akamori to be careful in her work and informs her that she will wait for her. As soon as he leaves the shopping center, he promises to give her a call. Saoto gives his assent and then asks him to exercise caution once more before waving goodbye until he leaves. Akamori responds with a wave and announces that he is soon to depart. When Akamori turns around after taking a few steps away from the house, he notices that Saoto is still standing at the gate and waving at him. Then, after taking a few more steps, Akamori gives her a wave in return. Saoto is still there, waving at him when he looks back from the corner of the street into the direction he came from. Akamori gives another wave and acknowledges that she is experiencing a life that is similar to that of a newlywed. His mind is brought back to the idyllic life of a married couple, in which the wife bids farewell to her husband as he leaves for work. He quickly dismisses the idea and ponders the reason why he is having such a positive reaction to this. Even though it is true that it has been nice to have someone say goodbye to him when he goes out, ever since he started living by himself, he has had the feeling that he is able to relax and let out his euphoria. It would be dishonest to claim that he had never experienced feelings of loneliness in the past. However, ever since he began living with Saoto, he has not experienced those feelings. They watch television after eating and unwinding, and then before going to bed, they go over the schedule for the following day. Because they are in the same room together, it does not feel lonely even when they are engaged in activities that are different from one another. As a result, he came to the realization that having someone by his side is extremely satisfying. Perhaps it was actually him who was saved by the fact that they were living together. When Akamori finally arrives at the convenience store, he has the idea that he needs to prepare a delicious meal for dinner because they are going to be attending this study meeting for Saoto. Even though it has been almost a month since they started living together, he still does not know what her favorite food is. This is something that he is now trying to figure out. At that moment, Akamori is startled by the sound of someone calling out to him. Izumi is the only person that Akamori sees when she looks around, and she is the only one. In response to him telling her that she had surprised him, she laughs and says that she had no intention of frightening him. Akamori describes her as the typical Izumi, who is bursting with energy in every direction. He inquires as to whether or not she is as well. She explains to him that she had considered preparing dinner for everyone together because she would never go to someone else's house without bringing something with her that she would bring with her. Akamori assures her that she does not need to be concerned about that matter because he is able to handle it. However, Izumi is adamant that they should carry out the task jointly with everyone else. In this manner, it is shorter and more enjoyable. After making the necessary purchases for dinner, they make their way back to Akamori's residence. While on the road, Izumi inquires of Akamori about the extent of his progress with Saoto. The statement is made by Akamori to her that they are not in a relationship of that nature. Izumi is taken aback and inquires as to whether or not they have even locked lips yet. She is informed by Akamori that they are not dating, so why would they act in such a cruel manner? However, Izumi simply laughs and says that it is difficult to believe that when they are living with a teenager under the same roof, something is bound to happen. Additionally, in the event that this is not the case, she is curious about the possibility that he is not interested in females. She makes a joke about how she has always found it perplexing that he gets along so well with Iji, but she then apologizes and explains that she is the owner of Iji, and therefore she cannot give him to Akamori. On the other hand, Akamori is adamant that her imagination had a completely different meaning, despite the fact that he acknowledges that there is no way he does not have second thoughts about Saoto. He is not the type of person who anticipates that something inappropriate will occur between the two of them. Although it would be dishonest of him to claim that he did not wish for something like that to occur, he is not going to allow it to be the primary focus of his attention. After that, Izumi clarifies that what she had just said was a joke, but she has always been curious about the reason why he assisted Saoto. Because everyone has their own reasons for helping someone, she inquires as to whether there is a particular reason for him to want to assist Saoto rather than anyone else. According to Akamori, Izumi is just as persistent as she has always been. In spite of the fact that she is a playful person, she is able to spot every lie and always asks about it. As a result, he makes the decision to tell her the truth, because Saoto reminds him of his first love. When he was in kindergarten, there was a girl who was always by herself and appeared to be very lonely. When he saw Saoto in the park, she reminded him of that girl, and he was unable to leave her alone. He tells her that he was unable to leave her alone. It is Izumi who inquires of Akamori about the fate of his first love. She is informed by Akamori that he relocated to a different city just before he was about to start elementary school, which meant that he was unable to provide any assistance to her in the end. However, he was unable to bring a smile to her face, and it's possible that he feels regret for that. Despite the fact that Akamori believes the memories from that time period are vivid, he is certain that he remembers feeling regret about it. Izumi inquires about the name of the girl he was working with when he was in kindergarten. He was a resident of this city at the time, and if he remembered her name, it would be possible for them to locate her. Akamori came to the realization that he does not have a clear recollection of her name. However, if he is not mistaken, her surname was Shinoda. However, his recollections are not clear, and it is possible that he is confusing her name with that of another individual. He tells Izumi that he had just recently forgotten everything, and because it occurred when he was so young, his memories about the girl's name are unclear. He says that he had forgotten everything until recently. Izumi expresses her disappointment by stating that there doesn't appear to be any way to locate her at this point. Nevertheless, Akamori is holding out hope that she is safe somewhere. It is not that he did not have any thoughts of seeing her again. Rather, he was reminded of a proverb that said, "Regret is the thing that destroys men and makes women mature." Perhaps in some way it is factual. According to Izumi, she has come to the realization that Akamori does not participate in any romantic activities with Saoto whatsoever. Akamori wants her to know that he is also a little disappointed, so he tells her not to say it with such sentimentality. On the other hand, Izumi has stated that she does not believe Saoto would be okay with that happening. Akamori responds that despite this, he is unable to approach her because of the circumstances she is in. He is unable to carry it out because it would give the impression that he is taking advantage of her weaknesses. Izumi makes the observation that Akamori is surprisingly a gentleman. She then instructs him to make Saoto smile in the appropriate manner this time, adding that she does not want him to regret doing the same thing twice. On the opposite side of the street, they notice Iji standing just as they are about to cross the street. Izumi rushes toward him, and he inquires as to whether or not they were together. He is informed by Akamori that he encountered her at the shopping center. Despite the fact that they are getting close to their destination, Iji says that he will carry the groceries, and he takes the bag from Izumi's hand. He is thanked, and she expresses her affection for him. As he observes the two people who are in love with each other, Akamori ponders how he would react if Saoto were to say the same words to him. The mere act of imagining it makes him feel a tingling sensation. When his friends notice that his face is turning red, they inquire as to what is wrong with him, but he simply insists that they leave him alone. They arrive at their residence a short while later. Akamori reveals to Saoto that he came across the other individuals, which resulted in their assembly. As Izumi eagerly enters the house, she immediately embraces Saoto. The two girls have grown very close to one another, and Akamori observes that despite the fact that they are very different from one another in many ways, they appear to get along very well. Somehow, despite the fact that they are diametrically opposed to one another, he believes that they are drawn to one another. He is reminded of the sun and the moon when he looks at them, specifically the way the moon shines when it is illuminated by the light of the sun. Because Izumi possesses such a brilliant personality, Saoto also becomes significantly more brilliant. According to Eiji, however, Saoto would not consider Izumi to be her son. He makes this observation. Despite the fact that Akamori does not comprehend it, he dismisses it as Eiji's typical nonsense. Immediately after preparing all of the components for dinner, Izumi calls on everyone to join her in the kitchen. Despite the fact that Saoto admits that she hasn't done much cooking in the past, Izumi reassures her that it's okay because they will prepare dinner without the use of fire, and Akamori and Eiji will be responsible for the more complicated dishes. In the aftermath of dinner, Izumi reveals that she may have consumed a little bit more than she should have because it was so enjoyable to eat with everyone. She is teased by Akamori, who indicates that eating 3 hamburgers and another bowl of rice is indeed an excessive amount of food. Eiji inquires about her well-being, and Izumi responds by stating that she will be fine as she takes a short break. While Akamori is observing her condition, she suggests that they put the cherry mochi that she brought with them for tomorrow. However, Izumi immediately gets up and declares that she is going to consume it right away. In the event that they are going to have a study meeting, she informs Saoto that they will require sweets for a late-night snack after the meeting. In agreement, Saoto asserts that she is most likely correct. Saoto is asked to accompany Izumi to the convenience store in order to purchase some sweets. Izumi expresses regret that she did not purchase more sweets at the supermarket. But Akamori intervenes and tells them that he and Eiji will go and buy the sweets instead of continuing with their plans. Due to the fact that it is already 9 o'clock at night, he recommends that they take a bath and relax while they wait. According to Saoto, Akamori is always kind, and Izumi compliments him by saying that he is very kind. Saoto agrees with Izumi. Izumi, who finds it somewhat amusing, inquires of Saoto about Akamori's tendency to be kind. The explanation that Saoto gives is that he always pays attention to what she wants to do. The fact that no one ever inquired about how she was feeling while she was living with her mother is the reason why Akamori is so kind. When she says something, everyone is taken aback by it. After hearing this unexpected glimpse into Saoto's family circumstances, Akamori is rendered speechless, despite the fact that she was taken aback by the information. It had not occurred to him how difficult her days were when she was forced to repress her own emotions and was unable to communicate them either. Saoto, however, receives reassurance from Izumi, who tells her that it is acceptable to express her feelings and to be more open, particularly with Akamori. In a playful manner, she brings Saoto closer to Akamori and then asks her to specify what it is that she would like to consume. After a brief pause for reflection, Saoto announces that she is interested in eating pudding. In spite of the fact that Akamori has already made up his mind to purchase all of the puddings that the store has to offer, he gladly agrees to purchase some. On the other hand, Izumi tells Saoto that they will carry on with the conversation while they are currently taking a bath. Saoto, who is a little taken aback, inquires as to whether or not they will be taking a bath together. In response, Izumi says of course, if they are going to have a conversation with the girls, it must take place in the bathroom. In the meantime, Akamori is under the impression that Saoto, who is a naive individual, will believe anything that Izumi says, so she ought to refrain from telling her strange things. Moreover, he is experiencing feelings of jealousy because they are going to take a bath together. He is perplexed as to how they could possibly abandon his poor heart. He wonders when this gathering for studying turned into a party for the girls. He also wonders whether or not girls always take a bath together when they are by themselves. Izumi mentions that they will take a bath and wait for the boys to return, after which she and Saoto will go to the bathroom. In addition to informing Eiji that they ought to go to the convenience store, Akamori inquires as to whether or not he is able to take a bath before they return to their house.